Are you concerned about the medications that you're on? Are they causing side effects that may be causing you some harm? Maybe some things that you never experienced before. And maybe if you look at the side effects, you'll find them that it could be this drug that you're on. What is the difference between a medicinal herb or a pharmaceutical drug? Is there any difference? Are you able to solve a drug interaction, or if you are you able to solve a problem, a diagnosis with something less harmful? Could it be? Well, you're in luck today because Gina Ruffa, she's a registered pharmacist. She is classically trained. However, she's a classically trained pharmacist. Let me just say that. However, she's also known as the plant-based pharmacist, the plant-based pharmacist. And so today we're going to have a conversation about, could there be a natural solution to a problem that could be prevented, or with a supplement or an herb or even food?
And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here waiting for you.
Hi, my name is Lillian McDermott, and I am a certified life coach and the host of the Lillian McDermott radio show. If this is your first time in the classroom, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Well, as I mentioned earlier, we have classically trained, registered pharmacist Gina Ruffa in the classroom today. How did I meet her? I will tell you how. Remember when I did those back-to-back cancer conferences? It was the Annie Appleseed Project and also Best Answers for Cancer. Well, she was a speaker. And as soon as I started hearing what her message was, I knew she was going to be part of the classroom. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Gina Ruffa is here to do just that. Welcome to the classroom, Gina. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here. So yeah, it was a great connection. We had a great time at the conference. We all learned so much. And really, I'm just on a mission to educate before you medicate. So that's my sole mission in life, to be a health educator, to be aware, to educate the consumer, to be an informed consumer. And traditional medicine, and I'm not bashing traditional medicine, it's very necessary. But a lot of times we go in to see the doctor to get a pill because we're ill and he sends us a bill. But that's really symptom care. It's not really health care. So health care is more getting to the root cause, going in a more integrative approach. And having a pharmacy background helps me, but I really have the philosophy that I think we should exhaust natural alternatives before we resort to potentially toxic prescription medication.
That's a really great goal. I had mentioned to you that when I was younger, I used to take a pill to avoid headaches, and I used to take it every day, like it was like I was a Pez dispenser, just in case, because I didn't want to get a headache. I didn't know that if I have a headache, that means maybe I need to be hydrated a bit, or maybe there's some stress in my life. There's so many things to take action on versus grabbing for the medicine cabinet and taking something to camouflage or to postpone something that your body is trying to tell you. Your body is saying, hey, you need to drink some water or something else. So what happened with you? I mean, you're classically trained as a registered pharmacist. Share a little bit about your story and what led you to this road, a more natural approach.
Absolutely, it's my honor. So I was trained as a pharmacist. I attended Duquesne University in Pittsburgh, and I worked a combination of retail pharmacy. I worked in hospital pharmacy. I worked at the pharmaceutical industry in New Jersey. So I had a wide array of pharmaceutical experiences. And after, maybe 25, 30 years, I ran into a very life-threatening situation with my son. My oldest son, Anthony, happens to be a two-time childhood cancer survivor. And he was actually diagnosed when my husband was finishing up his medical residency in family medicine. And I was also working as a pharmacist in the same hospital that my husband was doing his residency in. And we got this awful news that our son, after they thought he had a benign condition, he was diagnosed with a very rare soft tissue sarcoma. So my whole entire life changed after that. And I have dedicated the past 30 years toward helping other people journey through cancer, because it's an awful feeling to have that diagnosis. It's overwhelming. And, there's so many resources online and everywhere. It's just, how do you choose? You want to make good choices, but there's so much out there that it oftentimes becomes overwhelming. So as a healthcare professional and having a pharmacy background and understanding what medications people are currently on, I can guide them better and help them make better choices. We always want to weigh the benefit versus the risk. So we always want the benefit to exceed any risk. And that's, where I come in and help people journey through cancer as a health coach and a cancer coach.
When I heard your story about your son, it touched my heart. I can't imagine what you must have been going through as a professional and as a mom. And, someone who is classically trained like you would have gravitated, the easy road would be to do as the doctor tells you to do. And that is probably my biggest mission in life. My registered service mark is you can take a pill, you can take responsibility. And it's not that I'm against the pill, is that I'm for doing whatever you need to do to live a healthier life. That's the bottom line. But we get pushback from our doctors. We get pushback from our family and friends, well-meaning, to stick to the protocol. What was it for you that made you come out of the protocol? Was it because it was a rare cancer and they didn't know what to do and you took it upon yourself to look, or did you just feel intuitively? What happened with you that you decided, this isn't working, I need to do something else?
Well, I've always been a researcher at heart. In high school, I was very involved with science fairs, and I went to local, regional, international science fairs. So I'm very research oriented. And as a parent making a decision for a little toddler who had no say in the matter, I felt a tremendous responsibility to do as much research as I could to make the best decision that I possibly could. And I know when you're diagnosed with cancer, you get into the children's hospital or a oncology hospital, and you're sort of pushed into a corner and rushed into making a decision. And at the end of the day, my husband and I, we wanted to look back and say, listen, we covered every single base that we could, and either he made it or he didn't make it, but we didn't want to exclude any viable options. So originally, when we got to Pittsburgh for our son, and I was giving birth to my second child, which was my daughter, Janelle, I had to do a lot of research in a short amount of time. And they gave us the option of doing investigational protocols versus standard chemotherapy surgery. And they also recommended radiation, but we knew that the tumor, which was actually right here in his left sinus area, was very close to his pituitary gland. And we did not want to play havoc with his growth, with his thyroid, with learning disabilities. So there was a lot to consider. So we went against all leading authority recommendations not to radiate our son. And that was just an out of the box at that time.
And I'm surprised they didn't take him away from you, because I've heard of situations like that where they remove the child from the home.
Right. And I mean, yeah, Child Protection Services never hit us, but I'll tell you, we ended up doing chemotherapy to shrink the tumor, and then we followed that with head and neck surgery out in Colorado. Then we had to finish off with more chemotherapy. So for the most part, we went a very traditional route the first time around. But as we know, and as we learned at these conferences, oftentimes standard chemotherapy will debulk the tumor, and so will surgery. However, we have these resistant stem cells that remain and even proliferate. So it's the stem cells that we don't really get to that actually cause recurrence. So when our son was 4 years old, he ended up having a stage 4 metastatic lesion in his right lung after he had been in remission for 1 year. And, you know, who knows, was it the surgery that actually feeded the tumor into his lung? Or was it a result of resistant stem cells that never got treated with a chemotherapy? We'll never know the answer to that. But that's when I got very, very serious about including alternative medications. And we have a lot of amazing stories regarding our son and what helped him. But when he was 4 years old, we had a lot of complications. He had acquired a chronic rotavirus, which gave him a tremendous amount of nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. And I thought, how in the world with this strong chemotherapy, because it was much stronger chemotherapy the second time around, how are we going to feed his healthy cells when it's hard enough to feed a 4-year-old, let alone a 4-year-old on chemotherapy, let alone a 4-year-old with a chronic rotavirus. So I pleaded with the oncologist and I said, listen, I need a feeding tube placed into my son. And they looked at me like, I don't think that's going to happen. And I said, no, seriously, I really need a feeding tube. And originally we had the feeding tube go from up his nose into his stomach. And then we replaced that with an NJ tube into his small intestine. And I was able to do miraculous things with that feeding tube. That, I do believe, besides a ton of prayer, was one of the most important things that allowed him to survive a less than 1% chance of long-term survival. Because normally they would want us to put through the feeding tube all this canned Ensure and all this sugar and carbs and proteins. But no, I decided to juice for him. My maternal instinct told me that I needed to juice for him and get these nutrients, these phytonutrients, and these very important phytochemicals down his feeding tube and right into his intestine where he could absorb everything. The other amazing thing I did, which is very, very unique, and you don't hear too much about it, is we used colostrum. And I'm talking about human colostrum from breast milk. At the time, I was pregnant with my 3rd son. So I, at the time, did not have my own breast milk. So I searched around at my church and I found 2 lady friends who were willing to donate their breast milk to me. And I also had a sister-in-law that was willing to donate. And it was so miraculous that within a period of a few days, he actually cleared the rotavirus, and his need for blood and platelet transfusions almost came to a complete halt. Because after he had the chemotherapy and the lung resection, we did a stem cell transplant, which was really an autologous stem cell transplant. So with the stem cell transplant, his platelet count got very low, and he started hemorrhaging from his rectum over 1 liter of blood a day for about 10 consecutive days. So what happened was he lost so much blood that he went into hypovolemic shock. He had no white cell count. He had both lungs were collapsed. He had veno-occlusive disease of the liver. Everyone wrote him off. And after I started with the colostrum, his blood cell count started going up, his platelets started going up, and it almost diminished his need. He was getting hundreds of blood and platelet transfusions before we implemented the breast milk. So, and the reason why I found out about breast milk was I was reading and learning that the Italian people were using it for autoimmune deficiency and HIV. And my rationale was, well, if it's healthy enough to boost immune system for HIV, it must be healthy enough to help cancer. And now we find out the Lund University, the Swedish researchers found that breast milk, which is also called liquid gold, can help up to 40 different types of cancer. So it's very, very unique because it acts like a smart drug. And what it does is it actually selectively kills the cancer cells, leaving the healthy cells normal, unlike chemotherapy, which is not specific for cancer cells, because chemotherapy, obviously, it's like an antibiotic. It kills your good cells and your bad cells.
So moving forward, how's your son today?
He is 33 years old. I had the opportunity to bring him to Annie Appleseed Conference last year. He was thrilled to meet so many nice people and do such great networking. He's been in remission ever since he was 4. We did have a scare when he was in 1st grade. They noticed a nodule in his lung, but it ended up responding to antibiotics, and he never needed the surgery that they thought he was going to need. And then in 6th grade, he had a spontaneous collapsed lung, but that was a snowboarding accident. It had nothing to do with cancer. And then a couple years ago, unfortunately, he was in a very serious motor vehicle accident. We almost lost him to that. But in terms of the cancer, he maintained a very healthy lifestyle, especially through his teens. Now, he's not as health conscious as he used to be, which really breaks my heart. But between the ages of 15 and 19, he became a raw food vegan. So he did not eat any cooked foods for 4 years. He would forage for wild foods in the woods. We called him Tarzan. He had long hair. He would make concoctions. He would get shaga mushroom. He would forage off the birch tree. He would brew it in a crock pot. He grew wheatgrass. Our deck became like a wheatgrass factory. We had a wheatgrass juicer. I mean, it was just unbelievable. He had such a positive impact on my other 3 kids. So they kind of grew up drinking green juices and raw foods. So it was pretty interesting for a while.
Yeah, well, hopefully, what they say, that you train a child in the way they should go, and when they grow old, they will return to it. So he may surprise us all here. Well, okay, so this experience, and I'm sure all of you can probably relate to the shock of or the trauma that Gina must have gone through, and and good for you, Gina, that you did not bend to or collapse and just allow the medical system to do it, that you allowed your intuition to guide you. And good on the colostrum, because most people do miss out on that. So how do you go from that to deciding, I want to now dedicate my whole life to looking at other solutions? Had you gathered so much data that you felt you could not go back to the standard practice of being a pharmacist?
Yes. So working in retail pharmacy, the last 27 years of my career, we're working in a retail pharmacy. So you literally count, pour, lick, stick, type, and write for 12, 15 hours a day. So it's really a polypharmacy world. I mean, people were just over medicated. And one of my main mantras that I tell people is, you really need to educate before you medicate. So you need to weigh all the benefits versus the risks. You need to know what all your options are and to make a healthy choice. And you have to go with whatever resonates with you. There are people that are perfectly content practicing westernized medicine, and they believe everything the doctor tells them. And they go see the doctor, writes a prescription, they go to the pharmacy and they fill it. But we should really turn our kitchen into a pharmacy, because fresh herbs and spices are so medicinal and they're so powerful that people underestimate natural medicine. Because the unique thing about the plant world, and the reason why I became the plant-based pharmacist, is I was fascinated with the amount of phytochemicals and phytonutrients that are found in plant-based foods. It's just unbelievable how beneficial and how therapeutic plant-based foods can help. It's just like every drug that we take has a different mechanism of action. So it basically knows where to go in your body. It knows which receptor sites to attach to.
So we know how important herbs are. We have supplements as well as food. So let's start with foods, and then talk about what are some of the foods that we can have in our home right now to help prevent cancer, as a pharmacist and as someone who coaches people on nutrition.
Oh, well, that's easy peasy.
Okay, here we go.
I want to say that it's most important that a cancer patient buy as much organic produce as possible, because if it's organic, we don't have to panic. Okay, so there's something called the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. So the Dirty Dozen is a list of highly sprayed, pesticide-laden vegetables and fruits that should not be bought conventionally. In those instances, it needs to be organic. So the Clean 15, on the other hand, has a little more leniency, because on the Clean 15, there's less pesticide residue, so it's not as important to buy organic. For example, I'll give you a couple examples. Berries tend to be very highly sprayed, and because they're very highly susceptible to mold, and they have a very thin skin. So in these instances, we want to buy organic. And cruciferous vegetables are one of the top best cancer fighting foods. Any kind of cruciferous vegetables. We're talking broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, anything like that. Like Brussels sprouts are very high in sulforaphane. They're fantastic for any type of cancer, particularly breast cancer. So we have your cruciferous vegetables. We have all the berries, which have a very low glycemic index. So what you really want is a low glycemic index and low sugar. So there's something called an ORAC value, which stands for oxygen radical absorbance capacity. That's a big name for just measuring the antioxidant value of each food. So we want foods that have a high ORAC value, things like goji berries, raspberries, strawberries, green tea. So we want a high ORAC value, but we also want a low age value. And age stands for something that's called advanced glycation end product. So the way people can easily remember this is the higher the age value, the quicker you'll age. So what is a high age value? That's all your crappy foods, your processed foods, your refined foods, artificial foods. Okay, so but fresh fruits and vegetables would have a very low age value. Also, if you think about fruits and vegetables, they're very alkalizing, very cleansing to the body, very detoxifying. It's the dairy products, the red meat products, the refined foods, the hydrogenated oils that tend to have more acidity, which means they have more inflammation. So we want to stick to an anti-inflammatory type diet, particularly very close to a Mediterranean type diet. So we want a high ORAC value, a low age value. We want as much organic as possible. And juicing is a wonderful way. I can't say enough about juicing. Juicing is a way to very easily assimilate all these nutrients because it's very easy to get a serving of 5 to 9 fruits and vegetables in one glass of juice. And it's in a very absorbable form for your body. Your body knows what to do with it. It can assimilate it. So for example, if I eat a big salad every day, and I'm not poo-pooing salads, salads are fantastic for cancer patients, but I would have to chew at least 50 times to equal the nutrients that I get from one sip of juice. And the other thing about juicing is I can get very many colors and textures in that glass of juice. So we want to eat the rainbow. We want to eat as many colors and textures as possible. And that's the beauty of juicing. It's simple. It's live, it's all live foods, it's all live phytonutrients, you're getting enzymes, it's just cleansing your body and detoxifying your body. Also, fresh herbs and spices. I can't say enough about those, and teas. So herbs, spices, and teas should be a part of every cancer patient's diet. And if you're trying to prevent cancer, it should be part of your diet as well, because we want to prevent disease. We don't want to react to a diagnosis. We want to be proactive and we want to prevent disease. So, you know, statistic wise, 1 out of 3 people are getting cancer these days, and we don't want to be one of those 3. I mean, every family seems to have someone who's had cancer.
Yeah.
So there's something definitely wrong with our environment, our lifestyle, our diet, and we
Yes.
need to change that. And that's epigenetics is an amazing field because we used to think that cancers were mostly genetic, but now we're saying 5 to 10% of cancers are actually genetic. It's that 90% have to do with our terrain, our environment, our lifestyle, our choices. So we are able to turn on the good genes and we're able to turn off the bad genes just through these lifestyle choices. People say genetics may load the gun, but it's our lifestyle choices that are actually pulling the
Yes.
trigger on us.
Yeah, and you know, people are doing these DNA testing to see if they have the BRCA gene. And what I say is, you know, you have to understand that 50% of people that have the BRCA gene don't get cancer. And so we need to really look at the people that don't get the cancer. We only focus on the ones that get it, and we only look at those statistics, but obviously they're doing something. Now I want to go back to the juicing. So you said that juicing is very important. Now, we know that when we go to the grocery store and we live in a very easy, quick, society, let's talk about these juices that we get at the store. Is there any benefit to them?
Listen, it's better than nothing,
Really?
but you have to watch the amount of sugars. Now, if I'm traveling and I don't have access to a juicer, sure, I can buy a freshly squeezed juice. But like in terms of the bottled juices, like in a glass jar that come from the manufacturer, a lot of those are just loaded with sugar. Now, you have to make sure, you can't beat fresh, because fresh, you're getting the
Yeah.
live enzymes. It's unprocessed. It's like denatured. I mean, it's beautiful. It's from the earth. It's from the garden. So there's nothing that quite beats fresh juicing. It's absolutely the best. Now, a lot of juicers exclude the fiber, and that's okay. I mean, there's juicers that include fiber and there's juices that exclude them. Either way, you're getting a lot of phytonutrients and fiber. However, the concept about juicing, like with smoothies, it's a little bit different.
I was going to ask you about
Smoothies,
that. What is the difference between a juice and a smoothie? Yeah.
well, a smoothie has more of a thicker consistency. It's more like a milkshake. So what you want to do for a smoothie, an example of a green smoothie would be, let's say I like to freeze my bananas, and some people are concerned about bananas because they have a higher glycemic index. In those instances, I say we'll use frozen avocados. What I love about frozen avocados is they're always ripe every single time. You don't have to pick a ripe avocado. So if you either put a half of a frozen banana or some frozen avocados, let's combine that with some frozen pineapple chunks or mango chunks. And let's put our favorite nut milk in there, like unsweetened oat milk or unsweetened vanilla almond milk. And then let's throw a scoop of green powder in there. These green powders are so amazing because they have fruits, vegetables, herbs, seaweeds, probiotics, mushroom blends. I mean, they're just amazing. So it's something like, even if I put a couple fresh fruit in there, nothing compares to these green powders because they're so jacked up. They're like a powerhouse of nutrition. So let's say we'll put a scoop of green powder in there, and let's use a favorite protein. I like to use organic whey protein or a colostrum, which is bovine colostrum. We're not talking about human colostrum now. This is from cows. It's colostrum powder. And what the colostrum powder does, just like mother's breast milk, is it's loaded with immunoglobulins. And immunoglobulins help stimulate the immune system, and they help build it up from scratch. So they have lactoferrin in them, a lactoglobulin in them. There's all these amazing nutrients that are in colostrum, mother's breast milk or bovine breast milk. And it's just a great source of nutrition. They're low in sugar, they're high in protein, high in nutrition. So it's a wonderful addition. And you can throw something like bee pollen granules in there, which have loaded with B vitamins and enzymes. And that would be an example of a basic green smoothie. Now, you can also add fresh herbs. I like to add fresh basil to my green smoothies and or fresh mint, because mint gives it a very green, minty, beautiful taste. And I'm very particular about the different types of smoothies I make. So I have a pumpkin smoothie recipe, I have a berry smoothie, I have a green smoothie, I have a cacao almond butter smoothie. And so I don't like to throw blueberries in my green smoothie because it'll make my green smoothie gray. And I like the green, beautiful green color. So when I look at a green smoothie, I want it to be green. So I try to add
As much green to it. Now, you mentioned powders. There's a lot of people selling frozen powders that were I don't know how they do it, but they keep all the nutrients in it. And is it true? Is there truth to that? So they sell these superfood powder that you can just take it, add water and shake. Is that good too?
I think they're very good. And I think a lot of them are like freeze dried. So
That's it. That's how I was thinking for the word. Yeah.
yes, freeze dried retains a lot of potency and nutrients. So freeze dried is better than dehydrated for sure. Dehydrated doesn't hold the nutrient value as long as freeze dried. So they are very good, and they're very convenient for traveling, for on the go. And if you have to go to work, I mean, if you don't have time to make a smoothie, just throw a scoop of that green powder in your
Hey.
favorite nut milk and give it a good shake and enjoy that, at the very basic level.
Very good, very good. Okay, so let's go back now to herbs because you did talk. In conclusion, the smoothie versus the juice, they're both good. If
They're
especially if
both very good, and I would highly encourage a cancer patient to do both because juicing has certain advantages and smoothie has separate advantages. So it's very important to include both of these in your regime.
very good. Okay, now let's move to herbs because I love basil. You mentioned basil. I love basil. I love oregano. Let's talk about because I use oregano oregano oil when I'm
I
beginning
love
to feel a
oregano.
little sick or whatever. So let's talk about some of these medicinal herbs that are in our closet. And is powder or dehydrated or dry oregano the same as fresh oregano, for example?
Well, nothing quite beats fresh.
Okay.
So fresh herb gardens are an amazing addition to any kitchen. So if you can include things like fresh basil, fresh rosemary, which has rosmarinic acid in it, like when you smell these fresh herbs, you
Mhm,
smell how aromatic they are,
mhm.
you know they have a medicinal value. So mint is very good for your memory. It's uh, it has a very pleasant taste. You want to drink a green smoothie that tastes minty. You could add liquid chlorophyll to a green smoothie for just an added boost of detoxification and cleansing. So there's so many things you can do with a smoothie. I mean, juices have the different phytochemicals that are in the fruits and vegetables, but with smoothies, you can add all these amazing superfoods as well. So it's very important that patients include both.
Good. Okay. So what are other herbs that we can use for medicinal purposes?
Okay, so you mentioned oil of oregano. I love oil of
Mhm.
oregano. If you taste oil of oregano or if you smell oil of oregano, if you buy the oil, it has a very strong pungent taste, which tells you it's medicine. Okay, so oil of oregano is very antiviral and it's really broad spectrum. It has antibacterial, antimicrobial properties. So it's just like every different food has a different phytochemical. Likewise, every herb and even teas have so many advantages. So if you can include herbs in your cooking, in your smoothie, like even in your water, like I tell people to use turmeric and ginger. You could just grate it and drink it throughout the day in your water with maybe some fresh squeezed lemon, because people think lemons are acidic. Well, they are acidic until they go in the body and then they become alkaline. So lemons tend to be very cleansing. They detoxify our liver, which is our main detoxification organ. So lemon, ginger, and turmeric grated in water or even made as a hot tea is absolutely amazing. It's great to drink warm lemon water in the morning, and I would say add fresh turmeric and ginger. Turmeric and ginger have anti-inflammatory properties. They have analgesic properties for pain. They're neuroprotective to the brain. Ginger is very good for nausea and digestion. So these herbs really are very medicinal. So you would not do yourself justice if you didn't cook with a lot of fresh herbs or incorporate them throughout
Yeah.
the day.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned turmeric and ginger. When we were at the conference, there was and there's no Trader Joe's in Brevard County. I don't think there are. And I don't particularly go there. But they had a ginger turmeric tea there that I absolutely, and it was organic, and I absolutely loved it. And of course, I'm gonna have to go to a Trader Joe's to do this, or somebody can send it to me. I don't know. But what I'm saying is what I've heard is that when you use turmeric, there needs to be a pepper or some pepper to help with the absorption. So how does ginger and turmeric work together in a tea to
Well,
help
so
with
they come from the same family almost, they're rhizomes. And the reason why turmeric has those additives like piperine or black pepper or Mariva is to increase the absorption of the turmeric because it's not easily absorbed. So the turmeric I use actually is an oral spray turmeric, which has, I
really?
believe, a greater bioavailability. So with turmeric, if you're using it as a supplement, the BCM 95, which stands for biocurcuminoid 95%, is supposed to be the most absorbable form of curcumin.
Okay. So curcumin would be a good way to, you could put curcumin and ginger in your tea, and that would
Oh,
work as well?
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. What are other, can you think of any other herbs before we shift to supplements?
So as many herbs as possible, because in my opinion, variety is the spice of life. So it's unbelievable. Like fresh rosemary, yeah, we think of adding that to chicken and lamb and things like that. But rosemary is actually very good for kids that have ADHD because it helps increase their attention and focus and their attention span. So it's it's just really unique how every different herb has its own indications and properties. Like saffron, that's a big buzz herb and spice in the cancer world right now because they're saying it can actually help kill cancer cells.
Ooh,
And saffron, I mean, I've always known that for anxiety, it's very good for anxiety. It's great for weight loss. It's great for macular degeneration of the eye, but it actually has a role in cancer. So uh, look it up on PubMed or any other
yeah.
website, but you'll find a lot of great information about saffron.
Well, that sounds really good. So before we shift to supplements, I'm just going to shift a little and talk about the website and things that we're doing in the classroom. As you know, this is where we take 100% ownership for our life. And so I want to encourage all of you to go to whenyounneedafriend.com. While you're there, please subscribe because you just never know. This information that you're hearing today is being suppressed in social media, in mainstream media, because it is cost effective. It really is. You can't put a patent on oregano. You can't put a patent on orange juice for vitamin C, for example, but you can mix it and then create your own thing and then put a patent on that. So when it's natural from the earth, you just can't patent it. So please take advantage of whatever you can. And there are many, like if you're looking for particular herbs or whatever, or you have a particular illness, you're able to look and see, okay, which ones are the herbs that will work for me. So that's what we're talking about today with Gina Ruffa. And so I want to encourage you to go to whenyounneedafriend.com. If you want all her contact information, then all you have to do is, if you're a subscriber, all you need to do is click on her name in your blog that you got on Sunday, and you are able to go directly to her, and that's called theplantbasedpharmacist.com. And before we shift, you have to make sure you put in www, but if you just click the name, it'll take you there because I'll have it ready for you. So while you're at whenyounneedafriend.com, please like and follow. Share this video because that helps us with the algorithms. If you share it enough, if you make enough comments, then the algorithms cannot suppress it any longer. So we're in control. We're always in control. We can choose if we want to move towards health or if we want to move towards illness. And the best way to start is by sharing this video. I'm just telling you that if you want to beat the odds here so we can get it out, is for us to do our own voting by sharing the video. So while you are at whenyounneedafriend.com, make sure you like and follow me on all social media. Again, tell all your friends about it, share it on your platforms so that, again, they'll be able to see me. And also check out my sponsors, support them like they are supporting the classroom. And also you can go to my little shop now bag and it'll have all the different Lilly approved items that are there. But there's more things to life than my Lilly approved. You can decide that you would like to. And I was talking to Gina, who loves Dr. Lorraine Day, just as a reminder that we have these wonderful DVDs and online with Dr. Lorraine Day, the Book of Revelation, and also the 100 lessons from the Exodus. These are invaluable lessons and treasures for me now, and you can get it either on DVD or online. Either way, it's a wonderful message from Dr. Day. You can also plan a trip to Florida, Rockledge, Florida. You could probably stay at Cocoa Beach or Cape Canaveral, right where we live. And you can go to the I Am the Solution Natural Health Summit. At this summit, we're going to have great speakers like Dr. Joel Furman, Dr. Thomas Levy, Jennifer Grameth, Renee Hahn. We have a new speaker. Her name is Dr. Claire Stagg. She is a dentist that looks at the whole body to treat your mouth, believe it or not. And then, of course, we're going to have Brendan from Avasia to tell us how we can be pain-free. Both Dr. Renee and Brendan are going to talk about being pain-free naturally. We want to do this as natural as possible so that your body doesn't rebel against it. How many times have you taken a pill and you've had a reaction to it that's violent? It could happen too with foods as well, with allergic reactions, but not as much that will happen with synthetic drugs. So I just want to encourage you, as you know, my registered service mark is you can take a pill, you can take responsibility. It's not that I'm against the pill. I'll say this again over and over again. There are pills that are life-saving, and this class today has nothing to do with taking you off and making you feel that if you are taking a pill, that something is wrong with you. What I do want you to understand is these pills were not made to be taken for the rest of your life. So I'm encouraging you to incorporate some things in your life that can start making you feel better and helping you maybe get rid of some of these drugs. I know that the pharmaceutical industry doesn't like this message, but you will. And last but not least, you can become an enrolled student in the classroom, whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month or a one-time donation. Please help us grow the classroom. It has become more and more expensive to beat censorship. And so the only way we're going to do this is if you help out the classroom grow. And whatever you can do, whether it's your time, your talent, your treasure, we will appreciate anything that you can do. And we're so grateful for you. And today we have Gina Ruffa. She is a registered pharmacist turned plant-based pharmacist. So when you go to her, if you decide that you're just like looking her up right now and you decided to bypass the blog, you need to hit theplantbasedpharmacist.com. Make sure you do the 3 W's theplantbasedpharmacist.com, because if not, you'll go in a totally different direction and you want to stay with Gina as well. So is there anything going on in your website or anything going on in your circle that you would like to share with us?
Well, I do obviously a lot of health coaching for any which disease, but I couldn't help but think when you were just talking, not diverting your question, but you were talking about pills for ills, and I think of how many people have hypertension and high blood pressure and are on blood pressure pills or diabetic medications, because obesity and diabetes go hand in hand. How much of this is preventable through lifestyle? And the first thing that came to my head was beet juice. Just beet powder, like beet powder smoothie, like beet powder. It's red, which means it's good for your heart. It reduces your blood pressure. Okay. It dilates the arteries. It's a vasodilator. It's very good for a pre-workout routine. So these are the type of things that we try to get out. Where I live in Pennsylvania, we have a local chapter with for cancer patients where we try to educate them about decisions that need to be made. But regardless of whether it's cancer, autoimmunity, any condition, we just win or lose by how we choose. And it's all about making healthy choices and smart choices. And now that you're educated, you have a higher level of responsibility to make a better choice. So I admire the young generation because they are very proactive about their health. I see young kids around here in Florida all the time going to the juice bar, getting a smoothie. I mean, we certainly didn't grow up like that. I mean, I grew up in an Italian home with white bread, and I always say, if it's white, don't bite. The whiter the bread, the quicker you're dead. So,
Dr. Joel Furman says that too.
I know there's nothing healthy. It's like, why bother? Extra calories and for what? Like, there's nothing to gain from that other than, extra empty calories. So it's very important to make healthy choices. Try to find nutrient dense foods. And one of the things that I wanted to say when we were talking about ORAC value, believe it or not, the highest ORAC value besides clove and clove oil, which is like off the chart high with its ORAC value, is goji berries. Goji berries are these little red berries that sort of look like dried cranberries or kind of taste like raisins, but they're wonderful to put in a trail mix as a snack, ready to go. I mean,
even the dried up fruit, even the dehydrated.
Yes,
You're
they're
not concerned about the
wonderful.
sugar.
No, They're wonderful. They're just very, very nutrient dense. Moringa powder. I mentioned moringa trees that are planted all over Asia and Africa. They're planted there because they're so nutrient dense for a third world country or starving children, but they're just loaded with nutrients. So you can buy moringa powder, which is a green powder, and you would believe, like, you don't have to spend a ton of money on this stuff. You wouldn't believe that some of the like department stores carry this stuff, organic powders. Like, I go to Ross Dress for Less and I go in their food section and I find organic red beet powder or organic green matcha tea or organic green spirulina powder. Like, it's amazing and very, very affordable. So you really don't have to break the bank. And if you're worried and say, well, I can't afford organic, guess what? I mean, Trader Joe's and Aldi's, they have so many different organic varieties. I mean, you can buy 80, 85% organic choices at those places. So they're very affordable. So, and I always challenge people and say, listen, you either pay now in grocery bills or you're going to pay later in hospital bills. So, and the shame of the matter is, like, when we're young, I always tell people this, when we're young, we spend our health trying to gain wealth. And then unfortunately, when we get old, we're spending our wealth trying to regain our health. So it's a matter of balance. We have to keep the cortisol levels down. We have to keep their C-reactive protein down. We have to optimize our vitamin D levels. We have to eat cruciferous vegetables every day, if possible, in our diet. We have to, choose a more alkaline type diet. And in terms of supplementation, you have to realize, not everyone could swallow 50 capsules a day or 50 tablets a day, and your liver has to metabolize everything you take. So I try to pick the healthiest choices that provide the most benefit and the least amount of toxicity. And just, everybody's on a budget. We understand that, not everyone can afford everything, but you can at least pick your top 5, your top 6 supplements that are very important. Basics like fish oil, vitamin D, like turmeric, I would say is an essential supplement that most people should take, unless you're on a blood thinner. So you have to be careful. So if something has an antiplatelet activity and you're on a blood thinner, you don't want to get on extra antiplatelet activity supplements because that can increase your chances of bleeding. So
what about natural vitamin E? Dr. Andrew Saul would come on my show all the time and he would say, for those of you who want to get off your blood thinners, a natural vitamin E, you get a doctor that will help you titrate that, works just as well without the side effects. What do you say about that?
Vitamin E and also nattokinase. Nattokinase is also an antiplatelet supplement, but you can't do any of this without running this by your healthcare provider. You want to bring a list of supplements that you're on to your primary care physician. They have to know, they have to be aware of what you're on. And at least a pharmacist has to review it and look at it and say, okay, are there any drug-drug interactions? Are there any drug-nutrient interactions? Or are there any drug-herb interactions?
Sure.
So you have to proceed with caution. But again, it's always weighing the benefit versus the risk. And if it's mostly benefit and very little risk, and it's a life-threatening illness, well, I say let's exhaust these natural alternatives. Let's do it.
Well, your whole life has been a testimony to this. Your fight for your son also has been a testimony to what you're saying, and it's very important that we listen. I mean, I'm wondering, all of you that are watching today, can you relate? Is there a particular supplement that you love, and perhaps maybe we don't need? Are there? And so let me ask you, Gina. Are there? We got about 5 minutes left in the podcast. Or pod class. Is there any supplement? Like I used to use a powdered vitamin D for many, many years. And I think it was Dr. Levy or Dr. Lee Cowden who said to me, you want an oil base, you want something that's and stop taking, because it was organic, it was very expensive. And now my vitamin supplement is so inexpensive for vitamin D. What does your research show for you?
Yes, so let me explain that one. So vitamin D is like a very critical supplement to prevent all chronic degenerative diseases. Vitamin D happens to be a fat-soluble vitamin, just like vitamin A, E, and K. So with the fat soluble vitamins, you do have to take it with something fatty to absorb it. So oftentimes I encourage people to take your fish oil and your vitamin D together, or you can get a fish oil tincture that's in an olive oil base. And then for women that are postmenopausal, of course, if you add the K2 and magnesium and things like molybdenum and strontium, I mean, those things all help prevent women's bones from thinning. So vitamin D is very important because it's fat soluble to take it with something fatty. Now, the important part is your vitamin D level. So vitamin D is a very attainable blood test. You just have your family physician order you a 25 hydroxy vitamin D level. Now, for cancer prevention, the optimal level is 70 to 100. And I always tell people, if you can get to the value of 80, that's like bingo. That's like the perfect value. Doctors will tell you if you're 40 or 50, you're good enough, but it's not good enough to prevent cancer or reverse cancer. So it's very important. And there's vitamin D3, which is cholecalciferol, and there's vitamin D2, which is ergocalciferol. So it's important to know that the D3 is more absorbable than the D2. And this is just an average rule of thumb. But usually what we say is 1,000 units per 25 pounds of body weight, or 40 units per pound of body weight. And let me give you, for example, I weigh about 125 pounds. So a perfect vitamin D level or vitamin D dose for me would be 5,000 international units of vitamin D3. And that's what I take every day. And if you can, check your vitamin D levels once or twice a year and make sure you're within that therapeutic range, not only are you going to increase your likelihood of preventing cancer, but you're also going to increase your likelihood of preventing many, many chronic degenerative diseases. Like, for example, like Alzheimer's. It's very scary because it's a neurodegenerative disease. And they say that we're brewing, before we even have the onset of any of these symptoms, we're brewing this in our body for 15 to 20 years before the onset of any of these symptoms. That's actually scary. So we need some things that are actually neurodegenerative protective. So let's go back to the turmeric. It's very neurodegenerative protective. Things like SAMe, which stands for S-adenosylmethionine, very, very good natural serotonin booster. It's a liver protector. It boosts your glutathione by 50%. It's neurodegenerative protective. So it's just a matter of the individual, what medications you're on. This is where I like to tailor it to the individual. I need to know what medications you're on, what supplements you're on, what can be improved supplement-wise, what can be omitted supplement-wise, and make the best choices.
Very good. There's a lot to consider. So much time has, I wish we could have slowed down time because there's so much more that we can discuss. Maybe we can have a part 2 for our video today or in our class today, but really lots of things to think about. I mean, we've heard so many other people say something. I want to go back, and you said the 25 what was the 25 for the vitamin D test?
25 hydroxy vitamin D level. Hydroxy is just oxygen, hydrogen. So it's 25 hydroxy vitamin D level is what, and if you just tell your doctor, I need a vitamin D level.
So that's what it's called. Yeah.
Yeah. Very important for COVID protection and for cancer prevention, as well as other chronic degenerative
I know
diseases.
they've done studies in the past that shown that people that get cancer, all of them have low vitamin D levels.
Yes.
And that's got to be a clue. And I remember getting a blood test one time, and the doctor said, "Oh, your blood test looks great." And I looked at my vitamin D level, and it was 23. And I'm like, "I live in Florida." And I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I've got 23." And he goes, "Oh, well, yeah, I guess I didn't see that." Well, I'm glad I did, because we need to be our own MD, our own medical detectives. We need to advocate for ourselves and know our numbers and know what's, and I know that many doctors say 30 is okay for vitamin D level. And, that's, that RDA probably was done many, many years ago, before all the toxicity and all the covering of the sun and all of that, and the clothing and the oils that we put on our body to protect us from the sun. So we can't be afraid of the sun. Our sun is wonderful for us, but the vitamin D will help us and protect us. Final word before we go. I'm so sorry that time has gone by so quickly, but what's your final word for people that are tuning in today to give them hope to help their
I have-
life bit better.
I have a final word,
Yes.
and it's called New Start, NEWSTART. Very easy way to remember this. New Start happens to refer to the 8 laws of health. N stands for nutrition. E is exercise. W is drink plenty of purified water. S is get plenty of sunshine, depending on your skin tone, 15 to 45 minutes a day with at least 40% of your body exposed. T is temperance or moderation in everything. A is air. We must get outside and get fresh air every day. R is rest. Our sleep is very, very important. This is when the body can repair itself in the rest and digest mode. When you're not digesting, it's the rest and repair mode is what I wanted to say. And then T is trust in God. So
Yes.
these are the 8 laws of health. And it's when we start violating any of these 8 laws that dis-ease happens to creep into the picture. So if you are diagnosed with cancer, my final word is human calculations have absolutely no place with God. My son had a less than 1% chance of long-term survival. He was written off. He's had as many surgeries as birthdays. He is alive. We didn't nickname him the comeback kid for nothing. His nickname is Rocky and the Comeback Kid, but human calculations have no place with God. And as long as you have life, you have hope.
Well said. It sounded to me like when you were saying these things, I could hear Dr. Day talking about temperance and and trusting in a higher power. So that's always wonderful. God is the greatest healer, and we need to trust God to guide us to the right place, but we need to also trust ourselves and the intuition and the God in us. And that's what the I am is. The I am the solution, the God in us, that voice in our head that comes from God to say, you are enough to figure this out. And together with God, we're an overwhelming majority. So thank you so much, Gina,
Amen.
for being a part of the classroom today. I know this will be the first of many times that we will have a conversation. So thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And remember, do the 3 W's, www.plantbasedpharmacist.com. And
Thank
please
you for
remember,
that reinforcement.
yes,
Thank
and
you.
we'll always be here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Gina Ruffa wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Good job. Good job.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps